Hello friends, you're with a Lonesome Gamer, and today I'm doing a review of Mr. President by GMT Games, designed by Gene Billingsley. And, well, see my video series, so I'm not going to go into the rules or anything. If you want an idea how to play, just take a look at that. I really want to focus on reviewing this game. So let's talk about components first. I mean, it's just, GMT just makes excellent components. The games, the GMT games, the modern GMT games are just totally top-notch. It's functional. You don't have, wooden markers or miniatures of airplanes or stuff like that. You have counters, cards, all these booklets, and of course this massive board, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, everything is just absolutely top quality. I like especially the counters. They are pretty thick and they are already kind of curved, so you don't have to clip them or anything, and I really like that. And they are a little bit glossy and they are kind of heavy though, so it's not that easy to, if you kind of hit the board a little bit, they stay where they are. Maybe if you would make larger stacks or something, it might not be such the perfect choice, but you don't do this in this game. So therefore, I really love these counters for this game. And the board, totally amazing. I like the color coding. You don't get confused by what's going on. There are not too many different colors, and also the way this is laid out. There's a ton of tracks. There's a ton of stuff on the board, but I think it is all really well done. It's a little weird that they have these two tables here, because you don't really use them a lot. I was a little bit surprised by that. But yeah, apart from, and I don't know, maybe they could have done that a little bit clearer over here. But in general, I think the whole component and design aspect is very, very well done. The rules, that's kind of an interesting thing. You have a big rule book here. Now that's the scenario book. Let's see. Here, this is the rule book, the so-called governing manual, and it's really 50 pages, so it's really big. And you have here an index, which is very useful. And the cool thing is, actually, you don't really have to read that, because what they give you is a much smaller booklet. It's the How to Play. That's the one you start with, basically. And that comes with 7 pages. And this is actually enough. This is the core. This tells you all the core concepts of the game. And then you go to this turn sequence flip book. And you start here from the beginning of the turn, and you just flip through this book, step by step by step. You can immediately start playing after you've done that, and then you follow this book. It's like a teacher. It really does, it's really extremely well done. I mean, it's pretty much complete. Of course, you still have to go to most of these tables. Some are even in here, but if you have that book, usually you don't need the rule book anymore. It can happen then, if you want to look something up, it's a useful, it's really good to have the rule book, of course, but you can learn the game pretty much by the how to play and then this flip book. And the cool thing is about this, the quality is amazing. You know, they use these, this is not standard cardstock. They use the same stuff as they use here with this player aid cards. So it feels like it's laminated, but it's not really. It's, I don't know, it's an extremely stiff cardstock, I guess, and you can really use this book hundreds of times, and I think it will not get damaged. It's a fantastic help to learn the game. Before I go into gameplay, I want to talk a little bit about the theme in general and how strong it is in this game, because it is completely insane. This game is so full of theme. You usually get this in maybe, I don't know, fantasy adventure games, you know, these long campaign games where you have also booklets that tell a story, but you have, I don't know, maybe 200 of these event cards, and you only use half of them, about maybe half of them per game. So, I mean, you get tons and tons of these event cards, you know, and they're full of little stories, and you roll a die and you have a different outcome when you don't have all the time the same outcome from these event cards. So there's really this is really amazing. And then you got these huge tables here, and they also all tell some kind of little story, right? And that is just, I mean, it's incredible how much theme there is in this game. That is really fascinating to me. And I don't think there is any political game or war game which gives you so much flavor as this game does. And it also really interacts perfectly with the game board. You know, it's really well integrated in the game mechanics and how things are connected, and it makes a ton of sense. So you can really see that Gene, he must have done so much research. You know, there is so much work and passion in this project, and that is something you can really see all over this game. But now let's come to the gameplay. And yeah, I mean, this is where this game sadly does not fulfill my expectations. I was quite disappointed, to be honest. I think there's a couple of reasons. So one of them is there is basically one game mechanic which more or less does everything, and that is you roll a die, either a 10-sider or a 6-sider. You always roll just one single die, and you check a table, modify the results, and apply the outcome. And that's basically how everything in this game works. There's a couple of chit pull things going on, but usually they also tell you either to roll on a table or they tell you to draw a card. And then if you draw these cards, a lot of the times these cards will also come with little tables where you have to roll a die. So it's not a big exaggeration to say nearly everything in this game is done with a die roll that is modified on a table. And that's what you do. And you do this even when you do your own actions, so you can see here, for example, the crisis relief, choose a region, roll a d10, and then you have that small table, you've got a couple of modifiers, and that's it. Same here. Same here. That everything pretty much works exactly this way. The wars are also resolved in this way. You have a huge table here at the end, back there, and what you do is you roll a die. You have all kinds of modifiers here. These are all the possible modifiers, and then you apply a result. That's all you do in this game. You have to find the tables, you have to look for them through all these charts, and then you roll your dice. And I gotta say, I find that if you do that for hours, and this is a long game, this goes for many, many hours, it really feels a little bit repetitive, and it's simply also, it disturbs the game flow, and it always takes me away from this great storytelling aspect that the game absolutely can deliver. But because everything is done with dice, and you always have to search for the table, and you have to calculate the modifier, and then you roll the die, and then you have to find the result, I don't know, that doesn't really work for me. I also don't quite understand it. For example, especially when it comes to the actions, I thought about that, and I thought, hey, why did they do it that way? Why don't they make simply, for example, less actions, but if you do an action, it's a success? So, for example, you can simply do the action, that's what I mean. For example, imagine I play a coin game, and every action that I want to do, I have to roll a die and see if I'm allowed to do that action, or if it's a failure. That's ridiculous. Or I don't know, if I play chess, I wanna move a piece, and before I do that, I have to roll a die to see if I'm allowed to move a piece. That makes no sense. And it feels a little bit like this here too. And they could easily say, okay, you have, I don't know, an average chance of, I don't know, maybe 70% to be successful in your actions. So we just give you 70% of the overall actions instead. But every action is a success. That would speed up the game tremendously, right? If I don't have to find the table for how to reduce the regional crisis, if I don't have to calculate tons of modifiers, but if I could instead simply do this. That would save me 2 minutes of gameplay. And I don't really understand why they wanted to make it so complicated. I mean, there are a couple of things. For example, if you want to do a raid, I can understand this is kind of a special thing, right? This is something that's kind of exciting. You send a squad team in there, and you don't know, do they get the terrorist leader? Will there be casualties? And so on. So I'm okay. I could do that, give me a raid table, I roll a die, and then we apply the result. I'm okay with that. But I don't have to do it for everything, removing influence from China. There are a few prerequisites that have to be met, and if that's the case, I just remove the influence. I don't have to roll a 1 to 6 or whatever, or 1 to 7 to check if that's possible. Just give me a few less actions, and then let me just remove that token or that marker. Another problem I have with these type of games, you have that also in many of these solitaire war games or solitaire political games. You have that, for example, in RAF, the Battle of Britain, or in whether it's Discord, Rome Incorporated, these games, there's nearly no strategic decision to make in these games. It's all this fast reaction thing, you know. The game creates a specific situation for you with a more or less complicated mechanism, and then you somehow have to react on that. But you don't have an overall game plan. You don't have a big strategy, how you want to develop your gameplay or something like that. So, and it's actually pretty, it's not even clever or something. You know, if the game pushes this thing here, then you don't have to figure out some clever way how to bring it back. There is an action how to do that. You know, you simply spend an action and bring it back here. And that's all that happens. And you have all these reactions, right? The game places an influence counter and you use an action to remove it again. The game brings a track in one direction, you use an action to move it back in the other direction. And that is not super exciting on the long run, I think. You can do that for a while, but if there is no real goal in the game and no real strategy that I can apply, then there is also no real progress. It feels constantly that I'm basically more or less standing still, just trying to push the problems back that come toward me, get rid of them again, and then the game throws new shit at me, and I have to deal with that and try to get rid of that. But there is no arc, there is no climax, it feels a bit pointless, to be honest. And I could actually see in this kind of game that you could, for example, do a re-election campaign as some kind of climax. But as far as I know, that doesn't happen. You have re-elections in the game, but basically, again, you just roll a die, check some of your values here, and then you see if you're re-elected or not. But it's not like you would play. You don't get any special actions, or you can't do I don't know, very interesting stuff to do this re-election campaign, for example. The game just plays on as it does at the very start. So there's nothing special going on here. And yeah, if you have some kind of, I don't know, political vision or something like that you want to fulfill, I don't know, maybe things like, I want to, let's say I want to defeat hunger in the world, or I want to bring, I don't know, the first man to Mars, or I want to things like, maybe I want to reduce the output of greenhouse gases worldwide by 50%. You know, you could come up with some kind of vision, or that you could try to fulfill some goal, maybe a couple of tracks here, and you could focus on something, and you know, you would see some progress in the game. But all that does not really happen. It's just this constant, it is nearly a bit like the game plays itself. Of course you interact with it, you have to react to the game, but you have basically very, very little control. You always can react. That's what you do. You constantly react, but it's not like you control the game, or that you, I don't know, can somehow, can come up with a plan or something like that. And there are things where they could give me a little more control. For example, the way these allies activate. I don't really understand why is this randomized. I mean, these are my allies, and you know, maybe it would be cool if you could activate them maybe once per year, but you can decide when you want to do that and when you want them to help you. Just an option to get a little more control and to make this a little more strategic. Or if you could plan ahead a little better what the Russians or what China would do. I mean, you have some intelligence and stuff like that. So, it makes sense that you have an idea what China is planning to do. But you don't even know when they act, and I don't know. I wish I had a little more control. I wish I could apply more strategic planning to this game, but for me, that just doesn't work. In the end, it comes down to just somehow avoiding the auto loss, trying to bring all these tracks in a position where you want them, and all that happens by rolling dice, and the game then creates new stuff for you by rolling dice on a table, and then you try to react to that by rolling dice, and so on and so forth. And you do that for a long, long time. I don't know. I mean, I think right now, going through 4 years without a camera, maybe I could do it in 15 hours. And I've played this game already for like 20 hours or so. So it's not like I'm a total beginner anymore, I think. But it is so long and it is so complicated. And I mean, it's not complicated, but to learn all the tables and all the modifiers. And it's really tricky. It's very hard to get a real flow into this. Maybe if you played this game for a very long time, you can play it fairly quickly. Maybe you can do a year in an hour. I wouldn't rule that out. If you really know what to do and you have most of the tables in your mind, it probably takes maybe 4 to 5 hours. But to get to that point, that's really tough. That is really, really tough. And I won't get there. I don't think so. So as a conclusion, well, I guess I can say, for me, this is somehow a missed opportunity. They could have done a simplified version for a beginner, where they, for example, make this here, all these actions without die rolls. Just say, okay, you do something and you just do it and it works, and I don't know, maybe subtract 1 action everywhere here. 2 instead of 3, 3 instead of 4, and so forth. And then maybe some of these things, for example, China acts and Russia acting, and maybe also your allies, simplify it. Give me a flow chart, a 1 or 2 page flow chart, instead of a whole book. Right? I mean, I have this whole booklet which I have to go through just to determine what happens if one of these 2 massive actors acts. And I think if you had a simplified version for this, that would be pretty attractive for me. Something I can actually play in 4 or 5 hours, and where I'm not constantly thrown out of the story, where I really can enjoy this fantastic storytelling aspect that the game can offer. And then if you're totally into it, and if you like these kind of things and these massive tables and all these modifiers and stuff, then you can still do the next step and and do that. But the way it is, I don't know, for me, and I assume also for a lot of other players, this is, I don't know, this is not exactly my cup of tea. It feels more like work. You know, not many interesting decisions, but a lot of calculations, die rolling, and searching for tables. Yeah, so it's a little sad. I'm really ambiguous about that because there are also a lot of things to like, but I don't know. For me, not totally my type of game. I might come back to this. I probably will. I will not sell it because it's kind of something special. Really got to give them that. So what happens is probably I'm going to set up the game, kind of play through a year or so, and then realize, it's just not for me. And then a year later, I'm going to do the same thing. And maybe one day it clicks. I don't know. But at the moment, it didn't. Okay. So, yeah, that's all I had to say. Hope it could help you a little bit. And hope to see you on the next video. Bye.